Yeah, hey, this shit easy, nigga. Hey, all I'm talking about, nigga, I'm still out here trying to get it.
Contender Regime Boxing checking back in with y'all, man. What's happening? What's going on? Gary Russell Jr. versus Devin Haney looks like it's about to go down. I don't think both signatures are on the contract as of yet, but everything seems promising right now. It looks like it's about to go down. I just got through watching Devin Haney, Bill Haney on Fight Hype YouTube channel, and they were kind of going into depth on how the fight was set up and things like that. But first and foremost, man, what I want to do is give a huge shout out to the ldbc for actually being the instrumental piece to making this shit really happen, to making this fight a real thing. Because me, just as a boxing fan, I've been y'all can go back and look at the videos. I've been talking about this fight for a minute. This is something that I've been wanting to see ever since Gary Russell Jr. came out and said, you know, that he was entertaining the idea of fighting at 135. I'm like, well, ain't nobody trying to fight Devin Haney. Devin Haney need a name on his record. Plus, Devin Haney got a belt, so this will be an opportunity for Gary Russell Jr. to go be a multi-divisional champion and get a belt at 135. It makes perfect sense. Devin Haney got a voluntary defense per the WBC. He can fight, you know, Gary Russell Jr. They was talking about him fighting Gamboa, but I think the Gary Russell Jr. fight will be bigger. It's a better name. Plus, you got a younger, fresher guy that's in his prime, that's looking to prove something. So you're gonna get more stripes off of fighting Gary Russell Jr. than you would a Gamboa. You know what I'm saying? Somebody who coming off a knockout loss against Tank Davis. So this is just a fight that me as a boxing fan genuinely wanted to see. You know, but again, shout out to the ldbc for making this thing a real thing. You know what I'm saying? I didn't really hear, you know, too much of that in that Fight Hype video. I felt like, you know, those guys deserve their credit for what they've been doing and helping to put this fight into play and make this shit come into fruition. So I hope the fight actually gets made, but I just want to kind of do more of a breakdown from a boxing standpoint, stylistically. I think it's a great fight, man. You know, Devin Haney, of course, is going to be the bigger, stronger guy. I mean, we don't know if he's going to be physically stronger. I'm just assuming that he's going to be physically stronger, being that he's a naturally bigger guy, young, fresh, really honing his skills. The last few fights, I've definitely seen improvements with Devin Haney, just being sharper, being efficient with his punches, very fast, accurate. His timing is really good, and you could tell, especially with him working with Floyd and just continuing to stay in the gym day in and day out, coming back from that shoulder surgery that he had. You looking at his Instagram and his YouTube, he been in the gym nonstop, constantly working. You know, so that lets me know that he's very focused and on his craft and making sure that he gonna be the best that he could possibly be when it's time to fight. And, you know, like I said, he's gonna be the bigger, stronger guy. I think technically, skill-wise, I think Devin Haney is the more skilled fighter. That's just my opinion. Some people may think it's Gary Russell Jr. I think Devin Haney is the more skilled fighter. Even though he's younger than Gary Russell Jr., I think that he may even have the ring generalship edge too. As just IQ-wise, I just see Haney as I respect his boxing mind. You could tell that he knows what he's doing in the ring. You could tell that he's really into the nuances of boxing, not just the physical aspect, but the mental aspect. He really knows how to show ring generalship. He knows how to control the pace of a fight. He knows how to control the distance. He knows that you got to set everything up behind that jab. And Gary Russell Jr. has these skills as well, as far as ring generalship, IQ. He comes from a great boxing family, like boxing royalty. With the Russells, man, they got a lot of good fighters over there. The father has instilled such knowledge in them over there, man. And you could tell when you watch Gary Russell Jr. that he know what he's doing in there. Great ring generalship, incredible hand speed, incredible boxing talent. But the mental aspect is there as well for Gary Russell Jr. And he's a very cerebral fighter. In this fight, I think Gary Russell Jr. is gonna have to be at the tip top of his game. He gonna have to be the best Gary Russell Jr. we ever seen if he gonna beat Devin Haney. He's gonna be disadvantaged with the reach, with the height. I think I've never really seen Gary Russell Jr. just like. Let me say this: against Johnny Gonzalez, he played the counter punching game, but he was very aggressive in that fight and ended up getting a stoppage. Jojo Diaz, he played the counter punching game with him and just overwhelmed him in spots with blistering combinations and things like that. Just overwhelmed him. Jojo Diaz really couldn't get off. But I really haven't seen Gary Russell Jr. just, put that gorilla game down and just go mow through somebody, walk you down, mow through a motherfucker. His younger brother, he does that. Gary Antoine Russell, and I'm excited to watch that kid, man. That dude, he can fight. He can fight. But I really haven't seen Gary Russell Jr. do that on a consistent basis, walk forward and break a guy down, which is what I feel is going to be, that's going to be something that he has to implement in his game to beat Devin Haney. It's going to be hard. It's hard for me to envision him staying at distance or staying on the outside and trying to outbox Devin Haney. I just don't see how he gonna win just a pure boxing match versus Devin Haney. The hand speed is great, but as y'all know, I believe in timing beats speed. That's what I believe in. There are cases where a guy is just so incredibly fast and, so intelligent in the ring where he knows how to use that speed, change up the speeds. Don't throw everything at the same speed, every combination at the same speed. Change that shit up, know how to use that speed, and he can overcome somebody who has great timing. But most of the time when I see a speed guy and Devin Haney is no slouch in the speed department. He's fast as well. But when I see a guy that has the speed edge versus a guy who has the timing edge, I'm more likely gonna go with the guy that has the timing edge, but I think it's a great fight, man. This is a fight that I think is great for both guys. You got, like I said, Gary Russell Jr., he feel like he's been ducked. He feel like he's been avoided, calling out Terrence Crawford. He's right now, you can tell that Gary Russell Jr. is out to prove something. I mean, he's calling out everybody. He want all the smoke with everybody. So I think this is a great opportunity for him to go up 2 weight classes because I don't think he's officially had a fight at 130. I'm not sure if the King Tug fight was at 130 or if it was at 126. Y'all let me know down in the comments. Correct me if I'm wrong. But he's essentially jumping up 2 weight classes to 135 to fight a champion, Devin Haney. You got an opportunity to win a title, become a multi-divisional champion. Devin Haney, for you, this is a great opportunity for you to put a big name on your resume. A guy that's synonymous with Lomachenko, the guy that shared the ring with Lomachenko. Probably the best win on Lomachenko's career, on Lomachenko's resume, his best win, his biggest name and best win. So it's a great opportunity for both guys. If Devin Haney is able to come out with a victory in this fight, this puts him on another level and puts him in the conversation with the Lomachenkos, with the Tank Davises, everybody else at 135 that's making noise, because that's a very, very talented division, very competitive division. And these guys are actually starting to get these fights rolling now. So this is the perfect time for Devin Haney to get a fight like this. So that way, you can take that to the table with you when it comes to trying to set up big fights. Look, I've been in here with this guy. You can't say that I ain't fought nobody. Look how I performed against Gary Russell Jr. You know what I'm saying? So I think this fight is equally beneficial for both fighters. And it's a fight that's been built from the ground up, from the fans' perspective, from the mud. This fight has been built up from the ground up. I remember seeing Gary Russell Jr. on Barbershop Conversations with Fred, and talking candidly giving, you know, talking candidly about how the whole approach was with him approaching Bill for a possible fight. Bill got on the show, responded, and then you see, you know, Bill and Gary Russell Jr.'s representation on Fanon International Boxing, on 78 Sports TV show, on Trill Boxing Talk in the morning. You did what I'm saying? So Blue Blood been putting in a lot of work and making this fight happen. So this is something that's been built from the ground up, out the mud, from the fans. You know, so this is something that the fans really want to see. People can talk all this talk about it's a mismatch. You got a guy coming up in weight, 2 weight classes out. Look, these are two guys that ain't everybody not jumping out the window trying to fight. So why not come together and fight each other? Gary Russell Jr. was already talking about going to 135. So this shouldn't even be looked at as no mismatch or nothing like that, because you got a young guy who's unproven and you got a guy who's looking to prove something. You know what I'm saying? So I think this is just a good matchup and a fun, exciting matchup overall, man. So y'all let me know what y'all think down in the comments, man. How y'all see this fight going? You know, what do you think is going to happen in this fight? Who you think will win this fight, man? Contender Regime, boxing. I'll holler at y'all boys, man.